it. As a Conservative, I believe passionately in defending our nation's institutions and our rich heritage. They are central to our identity and help build a sense of solidarity between people from every generation and every background. And just as the government wouldn't hesitate to act when other treasured areas of our national life are under threat, nor will we hesitate to protect one of our greatest national institutions, football. This is, of course, for football authorities to handle first, and today I have met with the Premier League, the Football Association and the President of UEFA, whilst the Sports Minister has had another of a series of meetings with the Football Supporters Association. The football authorities have robust rules in place to deal with this, and I know from my conversations with them today that they are rightly considering a wide range of sanctions and measures to stop this move in its tracks. My message to them was clear. They have our full backing. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, be in no doubt, if they can't act, we will. We will put everything on the table to prevent this from happening. We are examining every option, from governance reform to competition law and mechanisms that allow football to take place. Put simply, we will be reviewing everything the government does to support these clubs to play. I have discussed these options with the Prime Minister this morning, and we are working at pace across government and with football authorities. I want to reassure this House of a very robust response. We will do whatever it takes to protect our national game. But it's clearer than ever that we need a proper examination of the long-term future of football. To many fans in this country, the game is now almost unrecognisable from a few decades ago. Season after season, year after year, football fans demonstrate unwavering loyalty and passion by sticking by their clubs. But their loyalty is being abused by a small number of individuals who wield an incredible amount of power and influence. If the past year has taught us anything, it's that football is nothing without its fans. And these owners should remember that they are only temporary custodians of their clubs, and they forget fans at their peril. That's why, over the past few months, I've been meeting with fans and representative organisations to develop our proposals for a fan-led review. I'd always been clear that I didn't want to launch this until football had returned to normal following the pandemic. Sadly, these clubs have made it clear that I have no choice. They have decided to put money before fans. So today, I have been left with no choice but to formally trigger the launch of our fan-led review of football. The review will be chaired by the Honourable Member for Chatham and Aylesford and will be a root and branch examination of football in this country. It will cover the financial sustainability of the men's and women's game, governance and regulation, and the merits of an independent regulator. Crucially, in the light of this weekend's proposal, it will also consider how fans can have an even greater say in the oversight of the game and the models which might best achieve that. We are the people's government. We are unequivocally on the side of fans, and their voices have to be heard when it comes to the future of our national game. It starts with fans and it ends with fans. But in the meantime, we have thrown our full weight behind the football authorities and stand ready to do whatever's necessary to represent fans and protect their interests. And I commend this statement to the House.
I call the Shadow Secretary of State, Jo Stevens.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Secretary of State for advance sight of parts of his statement that he's just made. This is a watershed moment for our national game, and the statement today is welcomed, as is the Chair of the review, but it is short on detail and on the urgency that this situation merits. Fans will have noted that. The Secretary of State tweeted last night extolling the virtues of the football pyramid, but if anything exposed the government's lack of understanding of our broken football system, that tweet, I'm afraid, summed it up. Tory trickle-down economics doesn't work, and it especially doesn't work in football. Football governance is broken, football finance is broken, and football fans, whichever club we support, are ignored. The hedge fund owners and billionaires who treat football clubs like any other of their commodities have no care for the history of our football, for the role it plays in villages, towns and cities up and down our country, and especially for the fans who are the beating heart of it. They should understand their role as custodians rather than cartel chiefs. The future of our national game and all our clubs depend on it. Labour has repeatedly called for the reform of the governance and finances of football by the government. It needs government intervention to fix that broken system, and that's why we pledged in all 4 of our manifestos going back to 2010 to take action. And it's why I and my honourable friend, the Shadow Sports Minister and Member for Wirral South, repeatedly urged the government to get on with its promised review, its fan-led review of football, a promise that they made in 2019. It's nearly a year since our letter to the Sports Minister offering support and help with 16 questions that the review should focus on. We know that there are members across this House who have for the past 11 years of Conservative-led governments supported reform. So it's time, Madam Deputy Speaker, for the government to get off the subs bench and show some leadership on the pitch, because we need reform of football. It's not as if there's been a blockage here in Parliament preventing the government from taking action to sort the problems out. Former Conservative Sports Minister, the Honourable Member for Wealdstone and the Weald, has said, "No one is speaking for the football world with the independence and authority needed to address the big issues," and she's right. The Conservative former chair of the DCMS Select Committee, the Honourable Member for Folkestone and Hythe, has said, "We should long ago have reformed the governance of football," and he's right as well. And the current Conservative chair of the DCMS Select Committee, the Honourable Member for Solihull, has said, "What's needed is a fan-led review of football with real teeth," and here we have more evidence to strengthen the case for it. So, I welcome the review, but why the long delay? Why create that vacuum that has allowed these Super League proposals the space and ability to become a reality? 11 wasted years when a small piece of government time could have been found to bring primary legislation forward to this House to sort the problems out. Instead of which, it's been all punditry and no progress on the pitch. And in that time, clubs and fans have suffered disasters. Fans in Bury know only too well the importance of reforming the way that football is governed, and supporters in Liverpool, Edinburgh, Manchester, my city of Cardiff, Portsmouth, and most football towns and cities have seen the damage done to clubs when profit outstrips the role of supporters in our game. We're in a global pandemic, and the owners of the 6 clubs behind this proposal think that now is the time to ride roughshod over their fans and endanger the future of football on the back of a year when fans have been at the heart of supporting communities up and down the country. What a contrast. And it's been carved out behind closed doors without consultation with fans or players, and these proposals have at their heart a plan which is so anti-football, a Super League from which you can never be relegated, in which you are always guaranteed a place because of your wealth. It represents a fundamental attack on the integrity of sporting competitions. It's very rare, Madam Deputy Speaker, that an issue unites football fans and organisations across the rivalries and divides, but this Super League proposal has managed to do just that. From supporters' trusts and groups, including the FSA, to the PFA, the FA, UEFA, the Premier League, the League Managers Association, the European Clubs Association, I could go on, it has been universally rejected for the greedy, obscene and selfish proposal that it is. So, let's act urgently. It's already too late for some clubs and their supporters. I'm asking the Secretary of State, when will the review be launched? What will the terms of reference be? Who will take part? And when will it report? And what exactly is the government going to do to stop the European Super League decimating our national game? It should explore every option, and I hope it will, whether that's a super tax on revenue or to investigating whether the proposal breaches the clear rules that govern markets and competition in this country. For football fans up and down the country, our message is clear. Labour stands ready to do whatever it takes to stop this plan, and I hope the government will make exactly the same commitment.
Secretary of State.
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for those questions. I think hidden in there somewhere was a welcome for the approach that the government was taking and for the fan-led review. The Honourable Lady asks what we have been doing for the past year. Well, I'll tell you a few of the things that we have been doing for the past year. First of all, we've been working to get football back behind closed doors. That we were one of the first leagues in Europe to achieve that. We acted to get a third of games free to view with Project Restart, including the first ever Premier League games on the BBC ever. We acted to stop clubs going bust with hundreds of millions of pounds through COVID support schemes and ensuring that bigger clubs looked after the smaller ones with the £250 million boost from the Premier League. We acted to keep football going through the pandemic, including, for example, secure protocols to enable travel between the UK and elsewhere. And indeed, that was in the face of opposition sometimes from the party opposite, saying that we should be stopping the sport behind closed door. And now, crucially, we are working to get fans back into stadiums. Members would have seen this weekend, for the first time, very welcome at the FA Cup semi-finals, and we are working and making good progress towards a further return of fans at stage 3 of the roadmap. But alongside all of that, we have continued to engage on the fan-led review. The Sports Minister and I have been engaging extensively. Just to list a few names, I've discussed it with Anton Ferdinand, Jordan Henderson, Karen Carney. We've discussed it with the FA, the Premier League, the EFL, the PFA, the National League, the Football Sports Association, Kick It Out, Women's in Football, David Bernstein, Gary Neville. The Honourable Lady referred to the Honourable members for Folkestone and Hythe, which I have discussed it with them, for Wealdstone, Mason and the Weald, discussed it with them, and indeed with the chair of the Select Committee. All of this work has been essential in making sure we get to the point where we can launch it today. As I said in my statement, I would much rather we had waited till fans were fully back and the game had been stabilised. But because of the actions that have taken place over this weekend, we have launched it now, and the Honourable Lady would have seen from my statement, it will be led by the Honourable Member for Chatham and Aylesford. I hope she will command support from both sides of this House. She was an excellent sports minister, a fan, and is someone who is passionately committed to the game. We will shortly be publishing the terms of reference for the review. We'll be working at speed, and as the Honourable Lady would have seen from my statement, and I'm happy to repeat it again from the dispatch box, we will do whatever it takes to protect our game, and we will examine every single option, and we are doing that right now.
We now go to the Chair of Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee, Julian Knight.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Just when you thought the beautiful game couldn't get any uglier, along come the Big Six and show that they couldn't care less for the fans up and down this country. Could the Secretary of State please outline for the House what specific levers he can pull to ensure football authorities come to the negotiating table rather than indulge in this unseemly civil war? And does this involve, for example, a windfall tax on these clubs? And whereas I welcome my right honourable friend's commitment to a fan-led review, and I would pay testament to the work he has done in order to ensure that football was one of the first sports to return last year. And also, I welcome the further meat on the bones. But will he tell the Big Six today that this review will have the power to recommend that their nascent Super League could be given the red card and be legislated out of existence if they insist on pressing ahead?
Well, I thank my right honourable friend for his questions. Yes, I think it is worth bearing in mind there are two parts to this. So in the medium term, we are working on the fan-led review. That has been launched, but that should not stop us from taking action now to stop this proposal going ahead. And my honourable friend highlighted some of the measures we might consider taking. I can assure him that we are looking at all of those options. We are looking at competition law, and in essence, we're looking at what does the government do to facilitate matches and facilitate those clubs, and looking at whether we should continue to provide that support, because it does not strike me that the government should be providing that support in the face of this proposal.
We now go to the SNP spokesperson, Gavin Newlands, who has 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Secretary of State for advance sight of his statement? And can I say I think it's the first time that I agree with every single word of his statement, provided, of course, that he meant Scotland when he said we invented it. But it must be made clear to the clubs and the owners involved that there will be no quarter given, no concessions whatsoever in the current arrangements. It's well past time that a line in the sand be drawn. There is already a huge and unhealthy imbalance in the game, with the big clubs and the big leagues with the big TV deals holding huge sums. This insatiable thirst for more, this greed, must not stand. Club football in countries beyond England, Spain and Italy face being left even further behind. And although clubs in Scotland such as Rangers, Celtic and League Cup winners and Scotland's most successful club in the last decade, second most successful club in the last decade, St Johnstone, are not involved, this hasn't stopped widespread condemnation. Neil Doncaster, the SPFL chief exec, said these proposals, or any like them, would have an enormously damaging impact on the very fabric of our sport at all levels. We believe that any such competition would dramatically undermine the global appeal of football and would be financially catastrophic for all but a tiny minority. The proposals, assembled by a small, self-selected group of very wealthy clubs, appear to be a cynical and very worrying attempt to thwart the core principle of sporting merit, which rightly underpins European football, and they represent a clear and present danger to the sport we love. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, the public are exhausted by sleaze and greed associated with the elites at the top of our society. How does this Tory government plan to eradicate greed and corruption at the heart of politics and business, and in doing so, protecting football for the fans? Or does the Minister agree with the Prime Minister that greed is good? And some overseas owners are from countries with concerning human rights records and links to dubious regimes, and may use their ownership of popular teams to sports wash their image. What actions does the government plan to counter this?
Well, I'm tempted to thank the honourable gentleman for the first line of his question, and then to stop there. From my perspective, it all went a bit downhill after that. But he's absolutely right to say, and the government will stand up to greed and stand up for the fans. And he's absolutely right to identify that even though it's English teams participating proposed for this league, it will have a severely damaging effect on all clubs in all parts of our United Kingdom. And of course, the game is as central to Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish identity as it is to English identity. It is a sport for the whole of our United Kingdom, and it is right that we work together as a United Kingdom in order to stop this dreadful proposal.
We now go to Damien Collins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the Secretary of State's statement and the decision to launch now the fan-led review. But as he has said, this is a review for the medium term, and decisions will need to be taken about the Super League in the next weeks and months. From what he said today, can the Secretary of State tell me if it is